Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Football Palestine Extra special edition. This one's actually going to be free. So, obviously, thank you to my premium subscribers who always get to see any video I make in its entirety. Free subscribers, special edition for this one, you get to see this entire brief preview of Palestine's game tomorrow against Iraq. Decided to make it free for a couple of reasons. One, I want to tell you about this charity auction we're doing. So you might have seen this on social media earlier today. This jersey behind me, Oday Dabbagh jersey from the Asian Cup. It's a game-worn jersey. He wore that in the first half against Qatar, and he scored Palestine's only goal in that game. The goal that made it 1-0 to Palestine and silenced the entirety of the El Bayt Stadium. So we're giving that away. I saw Oday yesterday at training, and he autographed the jersey for me. So the idea here is all of the proceeds we raise from the bidding will go to charity, 100% to charity efforts in Gaza. So if you're interested, if you want this jersey behind me, it is a silent auction with a reserve price. Just send me a direct message and tell me how much you're willing to pay for it. And at the end of the week or whenever we've collated all the bids, we'll make a decision and let you know whether or not you've won the auction. So, with that piece of housekeeping out of the way, I wanted to get into previewing this match tomorrow, Iraq versus Palestine. I was at the press conference today. I was at training yesterday. I spoke to a lot of the Iraqi media. I mean, one thing that really strikes me is that I was at the press conference for the Jordan game, and we are in Amman currently. And there was more media today for the Iraq game. Two not local teams than for the local team and for the Jordanian national team, which I found incredible. I think this just goes to show like how much passion there is for the Iraqi national team. And I think probably you can call Iraq a proper football country. I think it'd be hard to find another Arab country in Asia with a bigger passion for the sport and for their national team than Iraq. I would say, yeah, maybe Saudi Arabia comes close, but everybody else is way, way, way behind. I mean, it's like, the journalists we have here can be counted on one hand. So that was really impressive to me. Let's kind of update you on what the qualifying scenario is, what both teams are looking to get out of this game. And I think both teams are under pressure for different reasons. Palestine, we've spoken about this. There is a chance that they fail to win tomorrow and they're not mathematically eliminated, right? So if they draw and Kuwait versus Oman also ends in a draw, they'll have 4 points. Oman will end up with 8 points. So yeah, theoretically not eliminated there. Even if Oman wins, I think no. If Oman wins, they would be eliminated, right? But even if we lose, and that results in a draw or a Kuwait win, Palestine would not be mathematically eliminated. But at some point, you got to win a game, and so that's why we're sort of talking about the realistic chances. Are you need to win here, and then you need to sweep in June to make a playoff. Mathematically, Palestine cannot qualify directly. Now, speaking about qualifying directly, Iraq, they can qualify directly. And you'll remember they were really happy with what happened on match day 6 because they took care of business against Oman, and Jordan tripped up against Kuwait, and that opened up a 2-point gap. Well, that 2-point gap has been erased. It could have been a lot better. They could actually be behind on points to Jordan. Now they're even on points again with Jordan with a better goal difference. And they head to Korea right now. So what Iraq is hoping for is, one, they definitely need Jordan to drop points away to Korea. A loss would be great for them. And then they need to take care of business against Palestine. Why? Well, because their next 2 games are probably their toughest 2 games, or 2 out of the 3 toughest games. You've got Korea at home at Basra, and then you're going to be back here to face Jordan on, I think, just a thrilling match day 10. I mean, I'll definitely be watching if Palestine is not playing at the same time. Iraq versus Jordan, that match is going to be huge, and there's a big chance that second place or even first place, depending on how this group shakes out, will be on the line for both teams, and they could be able to seal it on match day 10. Now, for Iraq's perspective, what they would love to happen is you're on 12 points right now. You beat Palestine. You get up to 15 points. Let's say Jordan loses to Korea. Korea gets up to 18. Jordan remains on 12. You have that nice 3-point gap. Korea would then be almost 100% qualified. I think I'd be right in saying that they would be qualified for the World Cup if Korea wins against Jordan. Why is that important from Iraq's perspective? That's important for Iraq's perspective because there is a high likelihood that if Korea qualifies tomorrow, that they will not call up a full strength squad to face Iraq and Basra. Now, what would happen is that Hong Myung-bo will actually kind of pull up something akin to a reserve side and not actually bring in all the stars and just kind of give them a break and try and see who can contribute to the national team going forward. Now, that's still a rumor. You never know what's going to happen. And for that to happen, Korea needs to kind of get its house in order. Kim Min-jae and Lee Kang-in are going to be out of this matchup against Jordan. So what Iraq is really focused on is getting the 3 points against Palestine. How do I think it'll shake out? I think it's interesting. I think it's really, really interesting because Iraq were great last year at the Asian Cup. I mean, I think they were one of the teams of the Asian Cup, and it was a real pity to see them go home early because not only did they upset Japan, but they were dynamic, and it just felt that it was really clicking for them. And that loss against Jordan obviously came in really weird circumstances with a controversial sending off of Ibn Hussein for celebrating. Since then, it's kind of been touch and go. The performances have gotten less impressive, but the results are there. And one thing Jesus Casas said in the press conference was, look at our situation, which is still within our grasp. We control our own destiny. And look at the situation of an Australia, of a Saudi Arabia, of a Qatar, of the UAE. Those, direct qualification for all those teams, particularly the latter two who are playing in Group A, it's not within their hands right now. They have to kind of look elsewhere for results. So Iraq can be happy with the results. But, there were some murmurs even before the Gulf Cup that a lot of this wasn't very impressive, that there was an over-reliance on Ibn Hussein. They were winning a lot of games 1-0. And they were getting the result, but they weren't necessarily getting the performance that they would have wanted. And I think that's legitimate criticism. And it became even more legitimate when they went to the Gulf Cup. And Jesus Casas tried to say that it wasn't a full team. It was pretty close to a full team. And they were absolutely atrocious in that Gulf Cup. They played well against Yemen, who was playing in the low block, got the 1-0 win, and then that's all she wrote. They were horrible against Bahrain. They lost against Saudi Arabia. They went out in the group stages, and they were holders of that competition. So I think there's some pressure to rectify the situation, especially because of how they played against Kuwait and Basra. I mean, that game was not good. I mean, there was a complete lack of urgency in the first half. And Jesus Casas, again, in the press conference today, was saying about how, they want to maintain the ball and maintain possession and play football in a good way and not just go direct. And then he sort of pointed to what they did in the second half and how many shots they generated in the second half. But the reality was they generated shots when they started just going direct. And when they abandoned the game plan, they were just complete desperation mode, and the ball was just being lumped into the box. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's going to stick by his with his methodology and stick by his guns, and he's not going to budge. They're going to play in the way they like to play, which is to knock the ball around. But they're going to have to do that faster, really, to kind of break what Palestine will do. And I think Palestine will sit in the mid-block, just like they did against Jordan. And they'll be happy for the ball to go from side to side. And they're going to try and limit the spacing behind. Now, one of the interesting elements, and something that I asked about at the press conference, I asked this to Hamad, who was at the press conference today. By the way, it's the goalkeeper's birthday. And I told him, hey, listen, like you play in Qatar. You've got seven of your teammates that are also playing in Qatar, two of whom, Musab al-Battat and Milad Termanini, see Ayman Hussein every day in training. Have they shared any tips with you on how to stop him from scoring? And didn't reveal too much information, but said, yeah, like Musab is always, he's always around us. He's always giving us tips. He's our captain. All the kind of observation he gives us helps us play to a really high level, and we think he'll be able to kind of also share with us the pertinent information to stop him from scoring. And that's going to be big. I mean, I think a big part of the game plan is how do you keep Ayman Hussein out of the box, and if you keep him out of the box, then he can't get service in dangerous areas, and if he can't do that, then you will taking out a big, 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 big threat for Iraq. Not the entire threat, because they have the likes of Ibrahim Bayish, the likes of Ali Jassim, players that can hurt you. But Ayman Hussein, you just look at the statistics and how many goals he scored in 2024. He's obviously the biggest threat there. Speaking about goal scoring threats, the question that I posed to Abu Jassar was, how do you get the best out of Oday Dabbagh and Wissam Abu Ali in the same formation? Because it has been 8 games, I believe, since Oday Dabbagh has scored with the national team. How can you sort of remedy that? Because it doesn't make sense. You have these two great goal-scoring talents, and for whatever reason, you can't combine them together well, right? They played in a 4-4-2. That hasn't really worked out. They was playing underneath the striker. That wasn't great. Will the answer be trying to put him out on the right? And if you do that, would it be okay to play Tamer on the left? It's, I think, knocking about on as to how you get the best of both. And Abu Jassar did say he had a plan that was different than the plan he used against Jordan, that was going to get the best out of him. So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens tomorrow. It's interesting that you have these two talents and you can't exactly play them together. And if that's the case, then you should be making decisions on who's in better form as to who starts and who sits on the bench. It's not maybe the worst thing in the world to have an option off the bench or to do rotations. Good national teams do that all the time. Just look at Italy, the 2006 World Cup. Their striker kept changing, and they had a bunch of strikers that scored. Luca Toni scored in that World Cup. Vincenzo Giacinta scored in that World Cup. Alessandro Del Piero scored in that World Cup. Francesco Totti scored in that World Cup. Alberto Gerardino scored in that World Cup. So, that was a coaching masterclass, and it was a side full of forwards, each of whom knew his role, and every time one of them played, they scored. In fact, that team was so stacked that Christian Vieri was left at home. I'm not saying Palestine is that level, but we definitely have a lot of attacking talents. We haven't even mentioned the name of Asad Hamlawi. And there needs to be kind of a way to think, okay, if you've got 3 class number 9s, right? Just top class, especially by Asian standards, number 9s. How do you can't play them all at the same time. How can you get the best out of all of them? And it might be just playing one at a time and not playing all 3, or in this case, 2 of them at the same time. As to what I think is going to happen, I could imagine some surprises. So, I think Amin Mahajne takes Mohamed Saleh's spot in defense. I really would be shocked to see Mohamed Saleh in the starting lineup. In fact, if I had to put money on it, I would put money on him being out of the squad altogether rather than in the starting lineup. So I think Amin Mahajne probably takes his spot in central defense. Now, there is a slight possibility that Yasser Hamid slots in there and Amin Mahajne plays in midfield. But I think you play Amin Mahajne there, you play Adel Kharoub in the midfield maybe, and then you kind of keep the lineup as is. So Kharoub comes in the midfield, he plays alongside Atal Jaber, and then the question is, how many other changes do you want to make? And I think there might be one extra change, which is Adam Khaled. I think Adam Khaled has a role to play in this team, and the role might be for him to kind of come in centrally and play underneath underneath the striker because he's got very good close control. He was combining well with his teammates, and he was cutting in from the left. He wanted to be in those central areas. So maybe Adam Cad gets a run out in the hole, and that would open up basically more of the central areas. But it would also mean that somebody who started an attack would have to be dropped, and that's most likely Zaid Qunbar, who would be dropped, and then you would see Tamer Siam and Oday Dabbagh on either side. But even that's not guaranteed. There's plenty of options in this team in attacking areas. We saw that. I mean, we saw Asad Hnawi come on. We saw Bilal Musa come on. They could still have a role to play. You have the likes of Mahmoud Eid, who I don't know if he'll get a shout, but it'd be a great option to have. Left-footed player. And in great form, just scoring goals all the time. So we'll see what happens. And Palestine really has no other choice but to win this game. But winning the game is going to require that they sort out the situation on set pieces. They did train on set pieces last night. I wouldn't be surprised if tonight, that is a main focus of training. So if they can fix some of the outstanding problems and be a little bit more clinical in front of goal, they might be able to beat Iraq, because I think Iraq actually holds less of a threat than Jordan. And the matchup might suit Palestine a little bit better. The fact that they've got, just this big number 9 that needs service in the box. He's not going to be the guy that really excels in transition. It might be that this matchup is a little bit better for Palestine, and the fact that Iraq is not maybe in its best form that it's been over the past year, 16 months, 18 months, might just play out in their favor. So those are my thoughts on tomorrow's game against Iraq. I will be at the stadium. If you haven't subscribed to Football Palestine, do. Free subscribers, premium subscribers, they get a link to the match a couple hours before the game straight to their inbox. So that's going to go out tomorrow. Most of you will need to somehow pay or find your way around the paywall, because the rights to this game have been snapped up. But if you don't have a way to kind of get around the paywall, consider listening, for those Spanish speakers out there, listening to the radio broadcast of this game on the PFA's YouTube channel. I will be co-commentating along with my friend Javier Abu Aid on this I think unique audio experience in Spanish. And I have to say, when your team scores a goal, there's actually no better language to listen to a football match than Spanish. That's my personal opinion. So I'll be there tomorrow, and then obviously you'll have the live game day coverage, post-match reaction, and more content that comes on the other side of this game against Iraq. So once again, thank you for supporting Football Palestine, and I will see you tomorrow at the game. Bye for now.